Well, thank you very much for the kind welcome. And I hear you had some problems this morning, which we'll get on to the Adelaide venue management ASAP about interrupting any type of mining conference is unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. I also want to acknowledge the Ghana people and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And I just saw Nicole, and thank you very much for your warm welcome. And I want to thank the organisers for inviting me to speak to you today about this event. 20 years of success, so it's a good outcome, it's a good event, and each year this conference provides an opportunity for geoscientists across the industry to come together and share their knowledge and their experience with our colleagues. South Australia is in a rare position, a position we have not traditionally held, where our gross state product is outpacing the nation. We've grown faster than the nation, and the mining sector is a big part of that. The mining sector has done a lot to increase our gross state product. Contributes nearly over $6 billion to the South Australian economy, and that increased by nearly 14% over the last 12 months. Of course, you would know that that's been led by a resurgence in uranium, which has seen exports increase by nearly 60%. We are now Australia's only producing uranium state, something which this state government is very, very proud of. And it is also, I consider, to be a critical commodity of decarbonisation. Copper is up nearly 40%, lead's up as well, iron ore is up nearly 45%, and of course petroleum was up nearly 80%. So the sector contributes a lot. And those of you who aren't from Adelaide and see the Adelaide Oval, this industry could now fill Adelaide Oval with the people who are employed in that sector, which is something we are exceptionally proud of here in South Australia. In terms of our exports, you've seen the dramatic increase, $228 million up. These numbers aren't Western Australian type, but they are good for a state like South Australia. And of course, that $6.8 billion is vital, up from $5.9 billion the previous year. And again, of course, as I said, copper, uranium, magnetite, and mineral sands continue to be focuses for growth. Copper, because obviously it's a commodity of decarbonisation, and that commodity is growing in demand, as is uranium. Now, the world is struggling with decarbonisation, and it's struggling with how to decarbonise. And the uranium sector and nuclear energy is entering into a political sphere that's becoming a bit complicated and a bit tricky. Australia, for whatever reason, skipped that process of building a civil industry around nuclear energy in the 50s and 60s when the rest of the world was. And the question for us as a country is, should we? How long would it take us? But importantly for us as a state, there has never been a more important time to increase and improve those trade connections with other like-minded governments. And what I'm talking about is geopolitical instability around the world, whether it's Europe, it's North America, where our trading partners in Asia, Japan, South Korea. These Western democracies, these liberal democracies that support the rule of law, that are looking to decarbonise, who have nuclear civil industries, need safe, secure supplies of uranium. And the South Australian government is committed to that trade and committed to fostering this sector. Whether or not Australia enters the civil nuclear space is a question for generations to come. We could not do it overnight, as some propose. It would take decades in this country to get that up and running through a civil regulatory process. And then, of course, the cost effectiveness of nuclear energy are debates I'm prepared to have, but I'd rather focus on the now. In terms of where we are as a state, and this is something that I'm exceptionally proud of, the truth is I'm not the risk taker. You are. What I provide is the pre-competitive data. I provide the regulatory framework and the royalty regime. So the approvals, the government framework overall policy, and when it comes to ranking South Australia, The Fraser Institute is the go-to for an assessment of where states are, where jurisdictions are. So for 4 years in a row, we've been in the top 10. Now we're ninth globally for overall investment attractiveness, which is something I am personally very, very proud of, because we've entered that top 10 basically at the point where Paul Holloway and I were attempting to try and make sure that this industry became the fourth pillar of the South Australian economy. What I'm most proud of is our geological database, #1 in the world, which is something that our geological survey here in South Australia should be exceptionally proud of. And I really wish South Australians, our citizens who are out there going about their daily lives, knew the scientific work and endeavour our geological survey went about each and every year to improve the knowledge of our geology, not just for scientific endeavour, but to grow the wealth of our state, to create jobs, to create investment, to create prosperity. In terms of policy perception, which is what we do as government, we're ranked 3rd. Now, in any summary, the Fraser Institute is a conservative organisation. And Labor has been in office in this state for a majority of the 21st century and a majority of the last half of the 20th century. And to have these type of numbers is a real credit to, I think, the bipartisan approach to mining policy in this state and the zeal and ambition of our government to grow our mining sector and make it one of the best in the world. Now back to the geological survey. I really am standing on the shoulders of giants here. For decades, we've been building up our scientific inventory through the collection of drill core. And for those of you who haven't been to our drill core library, I'm happy to boast that it is the best in the country, by far. And I think our geological survey is the best in the country, by far. And if you ask me what the most important function of the Department for Energy and Mining is, in the mining sector, it's not our regulatory approach, which is very, very important. It's our geological survey. That's where everything begins. That is the foundation stone. If you don't get that right, everything else we do is irrelevant. What's there to regulate if we don't know what the minerals are? What is there to regulate if we don't do the scientific endeavour first? So the stocktake of South Australia's critical mineral prospectivity is important work being done by the Geological Survey, reassessing the deposits we already have, going back to the core library, going back to those cores and looking again. Important work. The secondary potential of mineways. I mean, I bet there are people in this room who would like to have a look at BHP's tailings at Olympic Dam to see what is in there. The studies that we're doing of the value chain of our critical minerals, and of course, the dashboard. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the dashboard, which I'll get onto in a moment, it is by far, I think, the best in Australia. But before I move on, I want to talk about where we are in terms of the critical mineral project that the Geological Survey of South Australia is undertaking. A lot of the work that we did 5-10 years ago is coming to fruition now. There's a delay, there's a lag. And this is where it takes political courage to spend precious treasure out of our treasury on the Geological Survey that may not bear fruit for a decade or longer. But you are laying down those foundations. And that is something that this government is prepared to do. We did it in the Weatherall government, where we spent $20 million on Pace Gas, which is one of the largest ever investments in a geological survey, the Geological Survey. And that has brought about all sorts of discoveries, Oak Dam being one of them. And I am very, very pleased to be able to talk about that further. But what we're doing next is the National Drilling Initiative in the Gawler Craton. The Gawler Craton is probably the most exciting geological asset this state has. It's an accident of geology that it's in South Australia. Those maps, those borders that are drawn around the Gawler Craton, we're gifted with it. It's undercover, but we still don't really know as much as we could about it. And the Geological Survey is committed in South Australia to doing some of that pre-competitive data, and we are prepared to invest with them. It's a greenfields region in some parts that we're looking at, as you can see the shaded area there. Yesterday was Discovery Day, and I told the Parliament that the second drilling campaign was probably one of the most exciting things that this state is undertaking over the next 18 months. Although I don't think it'll come up at street corner meetings or shopping centres when I go out and hand out my paraphernalia, but this is some of the most important work that the South Australian government is doing. I know you understand that, but it's important that we continue to talk about it. It's an opportunity for us to get a better understanding of what's in the Gawler Craton. Are the deposits the same as Olympic Dam, or is there different types of mineralisation that mirror other types of geology around the country? And if we understand that, we're able to de-risk you. And then after this drilling campaign concludes, obviously there'll be tenement releases where we'll be very excited about making sure we get explorers in there, get them on ground, because it's an opportunity for us, again, to grow our base, grow our mining base, create more investment, more jobs, and importantly, create prosperity for the people of South Australia. The work that they do will feed into the South Australian Resources Information Gateway, SARIG. And SARIG and the dashboard, I think this is something that every South Australian should be very, very proud of. Those of you who have not used this tool or have not got onto it yet, I would very, very strongly advise you to have a look at it. We're announcing today the release of its new critical mineral dashboard, and there are interactive maps enabling exploration and mining companies to access and interact with our extensive geological database in new and easier ways. Now, we'll continue to work on this. This is not set in stone, not finished. We continue to adapt and evolve as we go along. But there are several of these innovations that won the Premier's Award. And I cannot understate again the value that the Geological Survey has to me personally as a minister and to the South Australian Government and the Cabinet. The pre-competitive data that they uncover for us literally brings money into the state. Literally is a magnet. It's like a dent in space. It's like a massive ball in the middle of a trampoline. You just see the money flow in. And the work that they do, the work that they do to make this information easy to access, easy to understand, easy to commercialise, to take to markets, to raise capital, is vitally important. And it's work that is not cost recovered. It's not like regulation. This is work that the Geological Survey do that is not funded by industry. It is funded by the South Australian Government, and we do so because we believe it is one of the most important things we can do to grow our economic base. I want to thank you for your invitation to speak today, and I'm happy to take questions because I know you might be tight on time. You're on time, good. But there are several big investment decisions that need to be made over the next 12 months in this state. Some of those you might be aware of, might not be aware of. The state government is currently looking at an EIS into the Northern Water Desalination Project to get water to the Gawler Craton, to try and incentivise not just exploration, but of course mineral production and exploiting our natural endowment of mineral wealth. That project will cost billions. And it is, we believe, a nation-building project. Also, of course, you might have seen I talked earlier about increasing magnetite exports. The government also hopes to increase exports of green HBI, green iron, because we believe that we're the only jurisdiction in the Pacific that can decarbonise steel. Or we're the only jurisdiction that has the space and the land available to build the renewable resources we need to generate hydrogen at an affordable price to beneficiate magnetite, and our magnetite resources are the best in the world, to try and export that rather than just exporting unprocessed hematite or magnetite to other jurisdictions where they can add complexity to their economy, and then we buy back that steel at another price. I hope you enjoy your time in Adelaide. We've turned the weather on for you today. I hope you enjoy it. Get out there and enjoy our bars and our restaurants. And those of you from Queensland, we do sell a wine. It's not rum, and it's very nice. It should be drunk in moderation. Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.